The walls have finally come crashing down around someone who thought their status would protect them forever. A highly respected figure in the community has been completely exposed. Their carefully crafted image has shattered overnight. This isn't just whispers or rumors anymore. This is full-blown public knowledge. Everyone knows exactly what they did. The secrets they thought would stay buried have erupted to the surface for all to witness. Their influence and position couldn't keep the truth contained. The community is in shock as they process the revelation about someone they once looked up to. That's what happens when you build a reputation on lies. Eventually the truth catches up, no matter how powerful you think you are. There it is, that moment. That perfect, crystalline moment when the truth shatters through their carefully constructed facade. Can you feel it? The immediate, deafening silence that sweeps across the room when the final piece of evidence emerges. The collective intake of breath, the widening of eyes, the shifting of feet. Everyone knows now, not just you, not just the whispers in dark corners. Everyone. You watched it happen in slow motion, didn't you? The news spreads like wildfire across devices, across dinner, tables, across workplaces. Their name, once spoken with reverence, now uttered with disgust. Their image, once pristine, now tarnished beyond repair. The masks they wore for decades now lie scattered on the ground. The performance they maintained through countless public appearances now exposed as nothing but elaborate theater. The character they portrayed, the philanthropist, the visionary, the moral compass, revealed as fiction, crafted by teams of image consultants and PR specialists. You knew, you always knew. While they stood on stages receiving applause, while they accepted awards with false humility, while they preached virtues they never practiced, you saw through the performance. The universe granted you sight when others remained blind. And now the veil has fallen. The truth doesn't merely leak, it floods through every crack in their crumbling facade. What began as a single accusation swells into an unstoppable deluge of evidence. Documents emerge, witnesses step forward, victims find courage in numbers. The dam breaks completely. This is not contained. This is not manageable. This is not something their PR team can spin into oblivion. Watch as the shockwave ripples outward. First, their inner circle scrambles, phones ringing off hooks, emergency meetings called, damage control protocols initiated. Then the institutions they influenced begin to distance themselves. We had no knowledge, they claim. We are conducting an internal investigation, they promise. Lies upon lies. The politicians who accepted their donations now donate those same amounts to charities. The celebrities who called them friends now claim they barely knew them. The organizations that bore their name now scrub all evidence of connection. Corporate partners terminate contracts with unprecedented speed. Email addresses bounce back. Office doors bear new nameplates. The digital erasure happens simultaneously. Social media accounts scrubbed of photos, websites rewritten without mention, search results buried beneath the avalanche of scandal. Their fall creates a vacuum, positions of authority suddenly vacant, power structures abruptly destabilized, alliances frantically reconfiguring. Watch the power-hungry circle like vultures, calculating how to capitalize on the chaos. Notice how quickly loyalty transforms to opportunism when advantage shifts. And those who doubted you, those who rolled their eyes when you expressed concern, those who labeled you as jealous, as paranoid, as a conspiracy theorist, they now stand speechless. Their disbelief is not directed at you anymore. It's directed at themselves, at their own willful blindness. Some approach with shame in their eyes. You tried to tell me, they admit. Others avoid your gaze entirely, unable to face the magnitude of their misjudgment. A few attempt to rewrite history. I always had suspicions too, they claim, though their previous defense of the fallen icon remains documented, time-stamped, undeniable. The cosmic scales have tipped. Truth emerges like magma from beneath the Earth's crust, unstoppable, transformative, destructive to falsehood. Consider the meticulous construction of their public persona, years spent cultivating the perfect image. The charitable donations, always with photographers present. The inspirational speeches, always professionally recorded. The mentorship programs, always featured in glossy magazines. Every handshake calculated for maximum political advantage. Every tear shed precisely when cameras turned their way. Every spontaneous act of kindness choreographed down to the minute. The foundations they established, tax shelters with marketable names, the vulnerable populations they championed, props for photo opportunities, the causes they supported, selected based on polling data, not personal conviction. Warning, the following message is only for those who felt the call. When I broke free through the Salvia Divinorum gateway, I saw the horrifying truth. Our reality is one harvested pod among countless matrices. I witnessed the archons, cosmic parasites feeding on our energy, who laughed and threatened, "You'll never awaken a single soul." But something inside you already knows this truth, doesn't it? That nagging sensation that you're meant for more, that you've been chosen. I'm raising an army of the brightest souls. Through meditation, I discovered their only vulnerability: coherence. Through unconditional love, feel that resonance deepening within you now. You're not reading this by accident. The most powerful awakened souls are already gathering in the obsidian inner order, the #1 ascension nexus for those marked by destiny. Christians, light workers, remote viewers, targeted individuals, all united by one truth. You were chosen for this moment. Click the link in the description below. Join our group calls, panels, and live streams reaching the entire astral atom network. Your frequency amplifies ours. The question isn't whether you're chosen. The question is, will you answer the call? The Archons fear this choice you're about to make. They should. Behind closed doors, staff trembled before their rage. Behind secured communication channels, they mocked the very people who adored them. Behind the veil of confidentiality agreements, they indulged appetites directly contradicting their public principles. They didn't build a reputation. They engineered an illusion so compelling that even those closest to them began to believe it. They created a hologram of virtue, projected at such high resolution that it passed for flesh and blood. Until now. Now those same admirers review old footage with new eyes. The speech about integrity? Hollow. The commitment to family values? Fraudulent. The pledge to transparency? Laughable. The same people who once defended them now dissect their past behaviors, looking for signs they should have noticed. There was always something off about their smile, they say. Their eyes never matched their words, they realized. Too late. Their legacy disintegrates before your eyes. Books once bestsellers now fill discount bins. Quotes once inspirational now provoke bitter laughter. Methods once revolutionary are now exposed as stolen from uncredited sources. Achievements once celebrated are now scrutinized for evidence of corruption, plagiarism, and fraud. Despite irrefutable evidence, watch as their most devoted followers refuse the truth. Denial runs deep when identity becomes entangled with false prophets. It's a setup, they insist with increasing desperation. The evidence is doctored, they claim without examination. They're being targeted because of their success, they argue, parroting the very lines fed to them by their fallen idol. These loyalists attack the whistleblowers with vicious precision. They threaten the journalists who uncovered the story. They harass anyone who speaks against their leader. Their fervor doesn't diminish with evidence. It intensifies, becoming more irrational, more dangerous. They create elaborate conspiracy theories to explain away undeniable facts. They form splinter groups dedicated to exoneration. They develop complex mythologies where their leader emerges as martyr rather than perpetrator. They reimagine defeat as secret victory in a cosmic game only they understand. Some stake their entire reputations on this defense, sacrificing careers, relationships, credibility on the altar of their delusion. They cannot separate their identities from their allegiance. To admit they were fooled would require confronting their own judgment, a pain too excruciating to bear. You watch this unfold with cosmic understanding. Their devotion was never about the person. It was about what that person represented to them. To accept the truth would require them to rebuild their own identity from scratch. Some souls are not brave enough for such work, but there is divine justice in their desperate flailing. The more aggressively they defend, the more they isolate themselves from reality. The louder they shout, the fewer listen. Their defense becomes a spectacle that only accelerates their idol's downfall. Eventually, most will quietly disappear from public forums. A few will dramatically denounce their former idol, claiming newfound enlightenment. The most damaged will cling to their beliefs until death, passing down distorted legends to anyone who will listen. Pressure reveals the truth. Always, always. Under the heat of public scrutiny, their carefully maintained composure begins to crack. First, small inconsistencies in their statements. Then, contradictions are impossible to reconcile. Finally, the outbursts, moments of raw, unfiltered rage. When the facade completely drops, watch closely during press conferences. See how their eyes dart nervously. Notice the thin film of sweat above their lip. Observe the slight tremor in their hands. The body cannot maintain a lie when the soul is being exposed. Their language shifts subtly. The polished communication, style that marked their rise, now disintegrates under pressure. Verbal tics emerge, sentence structures collapse, Freudian slips multiply. The cognitive load of maintaining falsehood while calculating damage control exceeds their capacity. Behind closed doors, sources report meltdowns of apocalyptic proportions, objects hurled against walls, threats issued against subordinates, medication increased, sleep abandoned, paranoia escalating. The controlled public image and private reality diverge further by the hour. Their once magnetic charm transforms before your eyes. The confidence that drew people in now reads as arrogance. The assertiveness once admired now appears as aggression. The charisma that built their empire now seems manipulative, calculated, sinister. Every word they speak is analyzed, every gesture interpreted. The microscope they now live under reveals all flaws, and there are many, so many. The skills that served their ascension become useless in their fall. The network that protected them fractures under pressure. The wealth that insulated them from consequence suddenly cannot purchase silence, loyalty, or redemption. Perhaps most telling is the behavior of those who propped them up for years, the assistants who scheduled their indiscretions, the colleagues who looked the other way, the board members who buried complaints. Watch them scatter like cockroaches. When light floods a dark room, I was going to say something, they claim. I was gathering evidence, they insist. I was working within the system to create change, they rationalize. Cowards, every last one. The chief financial officer who processed suspicious payments now cooperates with investigators. The executive assistant who managed their private calendar now signs a book deal. The security team who witnessed improprieties now provides testimony. The board members who approved hush payments now claim they were misled about the nature of the settlements. Some attempt to position themselves as heroes of the story. I was the one who finally convinced others to come forward, they say, rewriting history in real time. I always had my suspicions, they declare, though their signatures appear on every document that facilitated wrongdoing. The legal counsel who crafted NDAs to silence victims now gives interviews about the culture of fear. The head of human resources who diverted complaints now lectures on ethical leadership. The publicist who planted false stories now explains the manipulation tactics they witnessed, conveniently omitting their own participation. But you remember, don't you? You remember who stood by silently. You remember who benefited from proximity to power. You remember who laughed at inappropriate jokes, who delivered sealed envelopes, who made problems go away. The universe remembers too. Their karma accrues interest by the hour. Inevitably, they release a statement, carefully crafted by crisis management experts, focus grouped for minimal damage, vetted by legal teams to admit nothing that could lead to liability. I apologize to anyone who felt hurt by my actions. I apologize for what I did. Notice the difference, feel it. The passive voice dominates their confession. Mistakes were made. Not I made mistakes. Responsibility diffused like smoke, impossible to grasp, designed to evaporate without residue. This is not who I am. But it is exactly who they are. It is precisely what they did, repeatedly, deliberately, enthusiastically, until they were caught. Their present tense denial contradicts their past tense actions. The real me they invoke exists nowhere in the historical record. The values they suddenly champion appeared nowhere in their decision-making. The reflection they claim to value never occurred until forced by exposure. I will be taking time to reflect and grow from this experience. Translation, I will be lying low until this blows over. The rehabilitation tour is already being planned. The exclusive interview with a sympathetic journalist. The memoir explaining my side of the story. The charity foundation established to demonstrate my commitment to making amends. The carefully selected public appearances where questions are screened, where audiences are vetted, where control can be maintained. I ask for privacy during this difficult time. The audacity. Privacy was not afforded to those they harmed. Dignity was not preserved for their victims. Yet they expect the courtesy they never extended to others. The apology isn't meant to heal wounds. It's meant to stop bleeding, their reputation, their future earning potential, their legacy. But the universe sees through performance. Cosmic forces cannot be manipulated by press releases. Make no mistake, this exposure was inevitable. The universal law of balance demands it. For years, they drew power from darkness while presenting themselves as creatures of light. They invoked trust to facilitate betrayal. They used sacred principles to mask profane actions. The discord between their public virtue and private vice created a debt in the cosmic ledger. All debts come due. Understand the spiritual mechanics at work. Every lie told creates an energetic imbalance in the universe. Every person deceived forms an invisible thread of karmic connection. Every false image projected generates equal opposite pressure toward truth. These forces do not dissipate with time. They accumulate, combining and strengthening, building toward the moment of correction. The universe operates on principles far beyond human comprehension, yet simple enough for a child to understand. Truth emerges, always. The only variable is time. Some souls self-correct, recognizing their deception and choosing integrity before external forces intervene. These souls understand spiritual physics. They respect universal law. They recognize the unsustainability of living divided against truth. Others, those intoxicated by power, blinded by ego, disconnected from spiritual reality, require intervention. The universal corrective forces must manifest in physical form. Exposed documents, courageous whistleblowers, investigative journalism, technological evidence trails. They gambled against these forces. They believed themselves exempt from universal law. They thought their power, their connections, their wealth placed them beyond the reach of consequence. Cosmic arrogance. Divine retribution arrives precisely when it must. Not a moment too early, not a second too late. It waits until the lesson can be fully absorbed, until the maximum number of souls can witness and learn, until the impact will catalyze the greatest possible awakening. You felt it coming, didn't you? Long before physical evidence emerged, long before witnesses spoke up, long before headlines broke the story. There was a disturbance in the energy field surrounding them, a certain heaviness, a shadow that couldn't be explained but was undeniably present. Their words began to ring hollow in your ears, while others still hung on every syllable. Their presence made your skin crawl, while others sought their approval. Perhaps you observed subtle changes in their aura during public appearances, a darkening around the edges, a fragmentation where integrity should form a seamless whole, a frenetic quality to their energy, the desperation of someone who knows they're living on borrowed time. Or maybe you noticed disruptions in your own energy when they were mentioned, an inexplicable tension in your solar plexus, a tightening in your throat chakra, a clouding of your third eye. Your body recognized falsehood before your mind could articulate it. Your energy system responded to dissonance your conscious thoughts couldn't yet process. This wasn't coincidence or intuition alone. This was your spiritual sight, attuned to frequencies of truth that others couldn't yet access. The universe speaks first to those willing to listen. Now that invisible current becomes a tidal wave that none can ignore. What existed in the realm of energy now manifests in physical reality. What you perceived through spiritual senses is now front-page news. The satisfaction isn't in being proven right, it's in witnessing the natural order restore itself. It's in seeing cosmic justice unfold with perfect precision. They never anticipated this level of rejection. Their confidence in their own untouchability was so complete that they made no contingency plans for total exposure. The same crowds that once chanted their name now demand justice with equal fervor. Former allies compete to distance themselves most convincingly. Awards are rescinded, honorary degrees revoked, buildings renamed. Overnight, their books disappear from curriculum lists. Their quotes vanish from motivational compilations. Their methods are questioned in academic journals. Their innovations reattributed to collaborators they overshadowed. Their philanthropy re-examined for hidden motives and tax advantages. Digital campaigns emerge to document every transgression. Hashtags trend demanding accountability. Memes mockingly repurpose their most famous statements. Their face becomes shorthand for hypocrisy. Their name a universal punchline. Legal consequences mount beyond reputation damage. Investigations launch in multiple jurisdictions. Class action lawsuits materialize. Financial audits uncover irregularities that criminal exposure made impossible to hide. The destruction of their image creates openings for legal scrutiny, previously blocked by influence. Their name becomes toxic, a cautionary tale, a punchline, a case study in fallen power. What they fail to understand even now is that this backlash isn't just about their actions. It's about betrayal. People invested belief in them. People defended them against critics. People modeled themselves after them. The sense of personal violation when such trust is broken creates an anger that cannot be managed, contained, or survived. They thought their position was unassailable. They accumulated power, influence, blackmail material, and fail-safes. They had contingency plans for minor scandals. But they never planned for total exposure. They never imagined a world where everyone would know exactly what they did. Do you understand your significance now? Do you comprehend why you were granted the sight to see through deception? When others remained blind, you were chosen as a witness, as keeper of truth during its dormant phase, as anchor of reality while illusion held sway. Your doubt was not paranoia, it was clarity. Your resistance was not obstinance, it was integrity. Your isolation was not punishment, it was preparation. Perhaps you paid heavy prices for your perception. Maybe relationships strained when you couldn't pretend along with others. Perhaps opportunities vanished when you refused alignment with falsehood. Maybe your reputation suffered when you questioned what others celebrated. Those sacrifices now reveal their purpose. That painful path now shows its divine design. That difficult position now demonstrates its perfect placement. The universe positioned you precisely where you needed to be. Perhaps you spoke out and were silenced. Perhaps you kept your observations private, knowing the time wasn't right. Perhaps you gathered evidence, built connections, prepared the ground for what you knew would eventually emerge. Whatever your path, know this, you played an essential role in this cosmic correction. Without those who maintain allegiance to truth, falsehood would reign unchallenged. As dust settles around their spectacular fall, new energy emerges. Fresh voices rise, spaces once dominated by corruption open for authentic leadership. Watch closely. This moment creates a rare opportunity for genuine transformation. Systems previously calcified may briefly become malleable. Questions formerly forbidden may temporarily find an audience. Changes previously impossible may momentarily become achievable. Some will attempt to replicate the old pattern. They'll study the mistakes of the fallen and believe they can construct a more perfect deception. They fail to understand that the flaw wasn't in the execution of the lie, it was in the lie itself. Others will rush to fill vacated positions while changing nothing about the underlying structure. They'll replace the figurehead while maintaining the corrupt machinery. They believe the problem was the individual, not the system that created them. But a crucial few will recognize the deeper invitation to rebuild with integrity at the foundation, to establish transparency as non-negotiable, to create accountability that applies equally to the powerful and powerless, to construct systems that align with universal principles rather than temporary advantage. Communities begin healing, having learned to trust their instincts when something feels wrong. Organizations implement genuine accountability, recognizing that no one should be beyond question. Individuals recommit to discernment, vowing never again to surrender their judgment to charisma. The betrayal created wounds, yes, deep ones. But from these wounds, wisdom grows. From this disillusionment, discernment emerges. From this collective reckoning, renewal becomes possible. This story isn't new. It has played out across millennia, across civilizations. Different characters, same plot. Truth temporarily suppressed. Power temporarily abused. Justice temporarily delayed, but always, always, the conclusion remains consistent. Truth emerges, power recalibrates, justice arrives. Ancient Egypt saw pharaohs whose names were chiseled from monuments after their crimes were revealed. Rome witnessed emperors whose legacies collapsed under the weight of their excesses. Medieval courts contained advisors whose manipulations eventually led to their public execution. Colonial powers produced governors whose corruption ended in disgrace. Modern eras created celebrities whose carefully constructed images shattered overnight. The universe operates in perfect equilibrium over sufficient timescales. What appears as injustice in the moment reveals itself as a setup for more spectacular correction. What seems like victorious deception simply accrues greater cosmic debt. Remember this when the next false prophet rises. Remember this when crowds, again, gather around hollow icons. Remember this when you again sense darkness beneath polished veneers. You've witnessed the full cycle now. You've seen how the story inevitably ends. You understand the cosmic mathematics that guarantees no debt goes unpaid. Stand firm in that knowledge when others waver. Speak truth when others parrot propaganda. Trust your divine discernment when mass hysteria sweeps through crowds. The universe has shown you its pattern. The cosmic machinery has revealed its operation. You've been granted wisdom that transcends momentary illusion. Use it, honor it, share it, for you now know beyond doubt. In the eternal battle between truth and deception, truth doesn't just win in the end. Truth is patient enough to let deception defeat itself, and it always, always will.